Hello, it is time to head north. I'm Natasha Ryan from the North Group. I have Vince here from the North Group, and I have James Cameron, who is widely and well known in our security sector. Today, the topic we want to hit, and I'll get to backgrounds, but just very quickly, we have seen so many incidents in the news revolving around celebrities, VIPs in Hollywood. Obviously, Chris Rock, Will Smith, the slap heard around the world. Then we have Dave Chappelle's attack. Olivia Wilde at Comic-Con gets an envelope across the stage. She opens it. Anything could have been in that. Vince, you were just talking about something that happened on a basketball court. I mean, we are seeing so many incidents. So this is the topic today. We are excited to have James with us. James, tell us a little bit about your background, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes, great. Happy to be here. Know many of you guys from long history. Anyway, own and operate a company out in Las Vegas, Security Concepts Group, been licensed since 2009, board certified in security management, have my CPP, and we provided high net worth clients with their close protection, their estate security, and many other international travels, just the whole gamut on that personal protection and risk management kind of level.
Awesome. And I do business and communications. My buddy Vince here is a Hollywood star on Mayans MC.
Big star. Big star.
Face on
literally big, a big person.
I've seen the gym pictures. You're doing good.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
He also does, he's on the business corporate side with me at the North Group. So, and a veteran. So we are very fortunate to have this collective group for this conversation. I want to start by just posing, I don't remember seeing so many incidents happening in such a short amount of time on such a major stage. Am I wrong about this? Or are we seeing this happen more frequently now?
I think we're seeing it more frequently because of social media is a bigger lens. I really do think there's been something to this for many, many years. People jumping on stage and kind of getting attacked or whatnot. But now more so than ever, we have cameras everywhere and you're starting to see it all over the place. It becomes national news. And so I don't think it's something that is all of a sudden big. I think, like I said, it's more seen because of all the cameras. But the other thing to me is like, well, why is it still a thing? In all the advances of security and walls and this, how are we still having this same issue? And that to me is always the biggest concern.
Well, from my experience and what I've seen most recently, we have a client that we support every year. We've been supporting them for 5 years now, and they go on tour. They're a TV show that goes on tour at the end of the season, and so we go around all over the U.S. and into Canada, and we hit theaters, large, small, casinos, theaters, small theaters, been around since the 20s. So we've seen that dynamic, kind of similar to the Chappelle incident, right? Where it's the amphitheater, it's an older venue. The unfortunate part is complacency. If he had security, they may or may not be paying attention to what's going on the stage. A lot of stuff, and Vince, there's a lot of stuff going on the side wings, right? So while the performer's performing, that security may be talking to stagehands, maybe, just not focused on the potential threat. Why is that? Well, because we're complacent. Hey, it hasn't happened yet, so why am I solely focused on it? The other thing is, at the stage entrances to some of these locations, and this has nothing to do with the Will Smith. Will Smith is a different entity, but the amphitheater situation, it's all about cost. And you're going to find the house security, if you call them security, are elderly. They may be ushers that are utilized as security.
They're men in black suits.
They're just there to they are there as a visual deterrence, but in reality they're not going to stop anything. They can't stop anything, right? So you combine the complacency of, if there is a security, and I don't know if he had personal security there, the complacency that happens, and then an elderly staff. Now, it's not, his show didn't seem to be like a Slayer concert where, you're going to have big yoked up dudes, blocking stages. A regular performance, You know, the amphitheaters and these theaters are looking to save money as much as possible. That's not to say that they're not all professional, but you may have professionals as managers, but the people that are actually posted, you know, not as much.
I got a question. So on something like that, James, I'm not familiar with this kind of environment when it comes to that kind of security, but is it up to Chappelle's people to hire the security, or is it up to the venue to hire security?
It's up to the venue to have security, but it's also Chappelle, if he, I think going forward, he'll probably put a couple dollars into it, but there would be the on other tours or other performances, there may be one or two protectors, or they could have a team of protectors, kind of like what you're talking about in the basketball situation. If you had information, you may place one of them covertly in the audience to kind of watch.
Oh, brilliant! Yes,
exactly. what's going on and be able to react. But again, depending on how big the stage is, how the stage seating is. Some stages is what's called continental seating, where it is from end to end seats. So if you're sitting in the middle, how are you going to get to the stage? There's no real easy out.
Yeah.
So, and again, when we do the security for tours or theaters, we make sure we post people left and right at the stage. But I've had people make it backstage because that person left or right isn't really paying attention. And that person, the biggest threat is somebody that acts like they belong, right? If I want to do a penetration, if I want to do like a red cell on a location, which for the audience, red cell means I'm going in to test what your security measures are. And that could be access control. It could be a whole wide range of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm going to do a red cell, say like I did one on one of the casinos here, act like you belong there and you're going to get wherever you need to go.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. You know, a jacket, blazer, depending on where the crowd is or what the audience is. If you dress down for maybe the Dave Chappelle, you come in there with a nice pair of shoes, sports coat, collared shirt. Hey, I'm with Dave. You know, he's expecting me backstage. Okay, right this way. You know, there's not.
The venue security is not well versed in that, right? They're just like,
correct.
I only get paid $18 an hour. I'm just gonna say okay.
Right. And there's and the other thing to think about is there's every night a lot of these venues have different acts, right? So and every act has a different color wristband, has a different badge. There's cred sheets that get handed out for the day, but how well are they being reviewed?
Yeah. I mean,
and I'm sure you see that on set, right?
Right. Well, I'm so conflicted on this whole thing because I see it on both sides. On the security mind of mine, right? All my years of law enforcement, military, tactical environments, and safety and security. I do this daily with my family. Going to a movie theater, I'm like, exit there, exit there, exit there. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
But as an actor, I get very, man. Look, we're on season 4. I'm complacent as all hell on set. I know the security that we hire are definitely not. They're not. They're not high quality security. They're genuinely 50-year-old men that are just like, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up, bud? You know what I mean? I mean, I love the guys because they're sweethearts, but in the event of some kind of real scenario, they would not be the ones to be able to do anything other than call 911, right? And so I don't feel like there's a threat, right? We're actors, there's not, but that's the part where you get in trouble when you start to feel complacent with it, and then all of a sudden this crazed fan, I mean, it's happened on every show you can think of. There's always someone that decides to come on, set and sneaks his way through that security. Because then what? Then you got free access to any of us. And that becomes a very dangerous thing, especially with our show. Think about Mayans. Mayans MC we are pretending to be a motorcycle club 1%er. There's a lot of 1%ers out there that probably don't agree with us even having this show. Right. So there's always a little bit of a threat in the back of your head. Like, I hope they can respect that this is art in a way.
It's for entertainment, right? It's not. Correct. It's not real life, right?
Right. But there could be some that don't agree with the context of the dialogue or whatnot, and so there is a threat potentially. You know what I mean? And so it's this really thing that I guess I'm complacent, even though I'm super like trained and experienced. I've fallen into that funnel of like, oh, okay, cool, we're safe.
Well, I mean, there is that, and you shouldn't have to worry about it, right? The apparatus should be there to protect you. However, that apparatus is managed by accountants that are looking at dollars and cents.
Correct.
So if you wanted to feel secure and have an actual security team, that's going to be very expensive versus a guard to fill a position at $12 an hour. right? You're not going to pay me, $95 to $100 an hour to stand around on set, but you'll be protected because I'll be doing my job.
Yeah.
But then you multiply that out by how many guys or gals does it take to secure the access points, things like that. Now you're talking, tens of thousands of dollars a day in security for real security. And that's what it really comes down to. Like Dave Chappelle, I can't attest to whether or not he had security on site or not, but I can tell you, I ran into one of the sharks in San Diego, and here's from Shark Tank, multi billionaire.
Oh, I was like, a shark? I'm confused.
Oh, no. Yeah. Well, one of the sharks from Shark, I'm just trying not to name him.
Yeah.
One of the sharks from Shark Tank. And he was walking around the Gaslamp district down there in San Diego by himself, just not a care in the world. And there's so many high net worth individuals, actors, sports figures that don't want the security. They feel it's intrusive or it's an expense, but then something happens. Right?
Yeah, it's
Right.
a problem in security I've noticed. And Tosh, we deal with this all the time when we're talking to clients or someone asking me about security. It's like, it's not interesting until they need it. And that's already after the fact. Now, like, we don't want this to happen ever again. You're like,
no one's interested in spending the money to be proactive, only reactive.
Right. Well, and that's the problem. And it comes down also to, clients wanting to be educated. You can have all the client education templates and slide decks to present to them, but if they're not of that mind, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind thought process. Right. Like, well, we've never had to deal with that in the past. So let's just not worry about it. And why put more money towards that in the budget?
Right.
And what do you do? Right. Because are we just going to continue to see these incidents? Because it doesn't, the venues, I don't see the venues spending more money on security.
Well, I'm curious if the venue's going to get sued on that one, Natasha. That's like, I'm curious if could they?
But here's the thing is they may get sued, but they're going to turn it right around to the security company that they hire. Depending on how they're structured, because I've gone to venues where security is in-house, so they're W-2'd by whoever owns the venue, or they're outsourced to some local security firm, and the security firm is responsible for filling those bodies. So if they're going to get sued, I'm going to turn around and say, well, why didn't the security do their job? We hired you to do a job. Yes, you hired an 80-year-old, and I didn't do the due diligence as the venue owner to say, yeah, that person's not going to do. Right? Because they have a responsibility as well to say, maybe that's not right, or, maybe it's not correct. The other issue that a lot of venues are very complacent on, and I've seen this a tremendous amount of time, is big events, even something like this, right? It may take 100 security guards to post up on the various stage, backstage, side stage, access points to come into the venue, right? And the venue will say, yeah, we need 100 security guards. And they'll go to the security company and say, hey, fill 100 security guards. They fill 60, but they don't tell the venue, but they still bill for 100.
Oh, wow.
And now you're short, right? And none of that really comes out until there's an incident, and then there's an investigation. They say, okay, let me see rosters. Let me see who is here. But the venue isn't doing that until something happens. So there's a whole can of worms on this, and it's all about quality control. Nobody's doing the due diligence.
Crazy. I got a question. So you've seen guys like Eminem and Floyd Mayweather hire security guards, but these security guards essentially are 300-pound, looks like 6'8" football players or something. And I personally would hire probably a Ranger buddy who's 5'7", 145 pounds soaking wet, but is a monster, right?
Sleeper, just a sleeper.
Yeah, those are the guys that I know do the damage. When you hire some guys to work with you, or you're looking for these well-trained guys that are not an intimidating feature, because what you said earlier is what caught my attention was they say that it's intrusive. Oh, having security is intrusive. Yeah, I get it. But at the same time, I think there's good security out there that isn't intrusive, that allows you to almost feel like your day is normal, and they will kind of mitigate throughout the rest of the day.
Very true. And that's the difference between professionals and amateurs. Right. So even on my business cards, I have a Henry Kissinger quote that, and this is what when we provide protection, this is unless the client requests otherwise, but we live by the motto of close enough to protect, far enough not to be introduced. Right. So we're there, but we're not all up in your grill. We're not overly overbearing. Now there are some clients that say, hey, I want you right next to me at all times. Sure. Okay. You don't want to be privy to conversation. And I think that's where some of the clients, that they're not educated enough on security to understand that we're an asset to you. We add value to your day. We help facilitate your time so you are more cost effective with your time and you can produce more, because ultimately that's what you want. And maybe they've had bad security in the past where, they don't have that mindset and they're amateurs. Those are friends. Those are people that they hire as friends or friends of friends. They're not professional. They've never been trained.
Deterrence.
Right. It's just a visible deterrent. And ultimately, it's a huge liability, because that's the guy that's going to punch a paparazzi in the face. And then, that client is going to get sued because it was your guy that punched me in the face. Right. Yeah. Because they're not trained.
Any close calls when you were doing EP work?
Like for bad people to do bad things. I've had some innocuous things that turned into almost international incidents. Pretty rapidly. We haven't. Our job is to recognize that the potential for threats. So luckily for us, we haven't really had any kind of major things. Now, there's been things that may spark some red flags, so we leave. So we don't really know if we avoided anything. Yeah. Because we didn't let it go to fruition, right? And my company, we specifically do not protect celebrities or high flash sports figures, things like that. We have had sports figure clients in the past, but we're not going to do a LeBron James, right? That's not our client base. UFC fighters, not my client base. A Britney Spears, again, not my client. Not my space. So we try to reduce that vulnerability right off the bat by eliminating that segment, and we deal with more C-suite where, people may or may not know who my client is if I'm walking right next to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's, for us, that's how we eliminate that. Oh, smack, that was pretty close. Like I said, I've had people get backstage to events that shouldn't have got backstage. It was overall a failure on me. I take it as a hit, but I'm one person and I spoke to the venue and it was a hit on the venue. Now, we rectified that immediately and they didn't get anywhere they weren't supposed to. But it was still a breach.
Yeah. Right? Just the other day, I was at UFC in Phoenix, Arizona. Me and my wife got tickets. It was awesome either way. But my friend, former Ranger buddy, he's one of the security guys. And another military veteran named Elliot is one of the head security guys of it. Really cool what they did in between the fights before the new fighters come out. They have guards posted on every side of the octagon, essentially. And they're just, again, I don't know how well trained. I know a good majority of the guys they've hired are veterans. And so they're in their black suit looking good. And then my buddy says, hey, man, I'm going to come see you in a little bit. Sounds good. Doesn't come see me. He comes back like an hour later and goes, dude, I'm sorry. We had some girl rush the cage. And the next day online, it's all over. She's like drunk and she's saying something. She jumps the fence and just starts sprinting. She goes up the steps and the security guard there sees her, stiff arms her right off the whole thing. And they were like, it was a success. Everyone is safe. We apprehended her and we took her backstage and they handled it. And it's really funny because it's a moment where not a lot of people have ever done that, have rushed to, or that we know of, but it was handled really nicely. Where the guy was boom, nope, get off the stage. She fell off. The ground guys got it. But I just can't imagine what it takes to prepare for thousands of people potentially can do whatever they want at any point. And so I think that's why they had so many security on it, just almost a 360 security setup.
Well, I think they did not want a repeat of any Conor McGregor fights where you had people rushing from the stands that were fighters.
Yes, that was crazy.
To jump in. And that was a complete failure by Metro, by the local, UFC security. But again, like you said, you get so many people rushing in, you're going to get trampled, or you can't stop it. You can't stop everybody if the masses wanted to come. But these onesies and twosies, it is discerning that, it's that it happens. But again, I put some of the blame on the security that were there, but I also put some of the blame on the performers not taking security seriously.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the interesting thing is sometimes I know in the military is we learn from some of the bad choices made, right?
Right.
Mistakes made on combat, mistakes made on target. you take that and you turn it into a learning experience. Like, this will never happen again because we are never going to make that mistake. And so
Right.
I imagine after that Conor McGregor was why now they have the whole stage covered in security and on the ground.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the realistic, and this is something that I deal with on almost on a daily basis. There's so many amateurs out there, and there's so many people that think they know security and are doing it, and they're doing it wrong, and their arrogance doesn't allow them to self-reflect whether or not they are doing it right or wrong, or where to seek information. A lot of the bodyguards, that's what they do, right? They're just, and there's a difference between bodyguards and executive protection.
Correct.
If you want, and then security, right? So you got security. I would say security and bodyguards are kind of about the same. Security won't be a huge liability like bodyguards will be. Bodyguards will put hands on somebody when they shouldn't, right? They don't know how to de-escalate. They're looking for that escalation. And executive protection people, like you said, the innocuous, smaller guys. I always like to equate them to, and I know I'm sure you've had an opportunity to work with the SAS or SAS. Sorry, yeah. The SAS. And they're all really small guys. Like all the ones that I ever worked with, all the squadrons that I worked with over in the UK, they're small guys, but they are incredibly tough, and you would not want to go against any of those guys. Whereas, you look at our special forces and they're bigger dudes. They're, they have they carry themselves differently. Right. So I always like to equate that a little bit, right? I would rather that shorter guy that's using his head and thinking through a process of, okay, how can this go south quickly? And how can I mitigate that? I mean, and it's not always, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm saying that's everything. I used to be a bouncer, and the biggest thing, and one of the guys taught me, and I just respected it so much. It was like, our job is not to fight, our job is to stop the fights, to control it, to mitigate it, and then just walk them out and say, all right, cool, let's take a breather. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. You're not a fighter at that position. And even in the military, de-escalate, even the law enforcement de-escalate, right? Like, you have to know it's kind of match that force and to almost control it and then bring it back down. And if you don't have that, like when you hire someone as security, if they don't have that, that's the most dangerous person in the room. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that even can segue into into this line of business. When people say, when I have clients request that we be armed, I ask them why. Right? My job is not to engage. My job is to cover and evacuate, get you out of the off the X, get you out of the immediate danger. The only time I would expect to pull a firearm is if you are the perpetrators was within 3 feet of me, right? And my client. That's it. And how often does that ever happen?
Right.
Whereas my job is to recognize that something is going wrong and we need to get you out, and we successfully get you out. We've done, obviously in Vegas, we've got nightclubs. And so we've got clients that go to nightclubs. And there's been times where clients on the dance floor having a good time, getting jiggy with it. And there's a fight that breaks out on the dance floor. I don't go stop and break up the fight. I just go grab my client and put him behind me. And I don't even rush him out because I know the club security is going to swarm on that. Stop it. Why ruin my client's night? I'll just get in between it, make sure everything's good, and then let him go back or her go back and do her thing. Now, if it escalates and it gets much worse, then obviously we have procedures to get them out of there. But it's the fact that you have to identify. There was a true story about that. There was I specialize in Middle Eastern royalty that comes into Vegas. I lived in Dubai, and so I understand the cultures and things like that. We were in a nightclub, and he traveled with his local military protection detail, but they were his friends. But I knew who they were. And so we went to the club, and a big fight broke out. And I don't think the military guys trusted me yet. They didn't have a relationship with me. Yeah. And I saw something happen. I high hurdled over to get to the client, chairs and tables. And I got to the client. I respectfully, I didn't grab him. I just told him, hey, sir, you need to come, or, Your Highness, you need to come over here, come this way. And I put him behind me so I could still observe what was going on. It wasn't enough that I needed to, do the whole bend over and, evacuate him out. Club took care of it. And then from that point, the security there were like, okay, James has got it. He's on it, and a lot of security doesn't, especially when we go to nightclubs, and I see them all the time. When security are escorting their own client, they're in the club too, right? So you got security that are just, it's like, hey man, you need to focus. you need to look at your client. You need to look outside your client and who's coming up to your client. So it's a very interesting world.
Let's talk about the Will Smith one. I mean, how do you can't really fix that? He's a high profile person, right?
Yep.
He's in an event that he's probably going to win an award, or he's there for a reason, a nomination of some sort. And so in that circumstance, I don't see how that can even be mitigated.
I don't either.
It really couldn't, because you, as a security, also, you don't know, is this part of it? Is this part of the show?
Is this part of the script? Yeah.
Yeah. Is this it? And I watched it live, and of course, Bree watched it over and over again. And you've seen people in previous shows where they go up and they make a comment. They'll grab the mic and be like, "Hey, oh, that was a good one."
You have Kanye and Taylor Swift right away.
Yeah, exactly. But can you imagine the backlash? And it could have avoided something, but can you imagine the backlash if a security from the wings would have come out and open tackled Will Smith? Now it would have stopped the slap from happening. But can you imagine that guy? First of all, that guy would be fired, never work again in the industry, right? And possibly be sued by Will Smith for tackling him, even though Will Smith's intent was still to slap somebody, and assault him.
Yeah.
But in a situation like that, what do you do?
Crazy. Moving forward, what are some things that you would like to see, one, talent, if they're, protect themselves with, and maybe some venues that they should be mitigating more, or they should be implementing?
Well, I mean, I think some of the mitigation stuff is happening with weapons detection. Obviously, the Chappelle thing was, it could have been 10 times worse than it really was, or that it ended up to be. I mean, I think that guy got the worst of it: dislocated shoulder and pretty messed up arm, which deserved every bit of it. But if they're not willing to bump up the pay rate or the billing of the security that they provide, I'll be honest with you though too, the quality of people out there is just so limited. It is very limited on who's working out there. When you talk about these venues, these jobs are only 4 to 6 hours. Maybe a night, or maybe every other night. So how do you keep that quality? How do you maintain that quality? That's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
Don't really have an answer to it other than, it's just an investment you have to do. It's like insurance, right? You hope you never use your insurance, but you got it.
Yeah.
But I have seen some technology that's being implemented, really good stuff that I don't know if you guys have had the opportunity to see it, the new metal detectors that are coming out, and they can actually depict on what part of the body the item is to search. So if I'm carrying a firearm on my right hip, it'll go off, but they'll know exactly where to key in on certain things. And these things can be tuned as detailed as you want. We did an event for a very large company, very large organization, and they actually had it programmed so it would recognize laptops that belonged to the organization and ones that didn't. So if I came through with a laptop that wasn't registered, it picked it up and knew it, and it would flag me and they would check it. If you came in and your laptop was registered, you'd walk in and it'd be fine.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and it's
really interesting.
Yeah. So it's tuned. It's tuned very well to pick up a lot of things. The funny thing is it's in the algorithms. It's got profiles of all like weapons and pipe bombs and all this stuff. So it's constantly, when it's searching, it's looking through these algorithms, and eyeglass cases keep popping because they look like pipe bombs, right? So you end up searching this little old lady's bag, and it's end up her readers. But that's how.
Sorry.
So the technology is getting there. As far as detection, the overall physical presence of individuals, which it still always comes back down to, that's the challenge, right? A security job, you can look it up anywhere on Glassdoor, LinkedIn, wherever. These security jobs are $12 to $15 an hour.
Yeah.
And that's for event security, and then there's no training on it. The experience from October 1st here in Vegas, those security guards weren't trained. They didn't have any emergency management training of here it is, you're in a large event, and not one of them was trained on evacuation procedures, right? So even in an active shooter situation, those security guards, rightfully so, they're not going to be the ones neutralizing the threat. Could they? Yeah, maybe, but most of them weren't armed. But their main job should have been properly evacuating attendees, right? Go this way, get people out. And they weren't trained on that. And that's why there was people that got trampled and all this other stuff. So even when people get high, I always ask venues when we go to it, hey, have these security been trained specifically for this venue? No, we never know who we get. We just get random people. Okay. So yeah, it's actually probably worse than anybody actually believe or is aware of.
Talking to the, as always, it's getting through to the people that could be impacted, right? So if you had a room full of VIPs that could be targeted, what would you say to them to get them to kind of wake up if these incidents haven't already done it?
That comes down to client education and situational awareness and not just to see something, say something, but if you see something out of the ordinary, and then also recognition of who our teams are. So they know my face, but if Rocco's working with me on backstage somewhere, I want to make sure that we do an introduction so he recognizes Rocco's face. So if he's got to come up and get him, that client knows, okay, I've already had a introduction to this person. And then also advising them where we've had people that are sitting in the audience of certain things, advising them at all times, where's my location? Where am I at? And then also, if you can't find me, where are we going to go to? I had a client that went to the UFC fight for the first Conor McGregor fight against the first time he won the belt. Help me out, Rocco. When he fought.
Aldo? Was it Aldo?
Yeah, Jose Aldo.
Yeah, Jose Aldo. That was huge.
And MGM Grand, talking to the staff there, they had 16,500 people in that arena. They hadn't seen those numbers since Tyson fought there. Wow. That's how many people, and 3/4 of them were drunk Irish.
Right? Oh, for sure.
And I didn't have a seat. My client had a seat. His wife had a seat. And I was very vigilant there. And I was also very vigilant with him of saying, what I need from you is, if you feel uncomfortable, look back at me, or, please just do periodic checks, just look back at me. I'm going to check, make sure you're okay. I don't want to come down and bother you while you're enjoying the 30-second fight, but I'm going to be here. And also when we leave, this is the route we're going. And if there's a situation, this is the route we're going. They won't listen to you anyway, but doing that due diligence, briefing them, it also helps them understand that they're trusting you. It's like, okay, I trust him. He's got it under control. And even when we left, it was ridiculous to where it was so packed, everybody's leaving. And then how do you leave, right? So I positioned it where I was in front, which is not usual it's not unusual, but for a solo practitioner, you usually want to be in the back, or you want to be somewhere where you can maintain visual of where they're going. In this situation, I was in front. His wife was holding onto my arm, and he was holding onto her arm, and I was getting him through the crowd. So I wasn't leading them to, bump into people. It would be me that would bumping into people. And if somebody had something to say, then we just parted ways. So having that trust and that relationship with clients, again, they're going to be complacent. As security, you can't be. So if Chappelle had security on the side, as soon as that person made the first step on stage, you should have seen that person sprinting out to go get him, because guaranteed some stagehand saw it, but it takes a few seconds between a radio call, hey, where's so-and-so? There's a breach, right? That security should have already been out there. And it's a definite failure on the venue security that was there. So Tosh? I'm not sure if I answered any questions or just made it worse.
No, we just appreciate you. It's a great conversation. That's what we're here to do, just to chat things out. So James, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you. Vince, as always, love you, buddy. If you're listening and you want information on the North Group, of course, go to our website, tngdefense.com. We have more podcasts just like this one, and we hope to have you join us for the next one. Goodbye, everybody.